Welcome to the Slam and Jam. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. You can go to theathletic.com/NBA show and get The Athletic for a discounted rate. Boy, it's been another fun week of basketball. We have the in-season tournament games again tonight. New courts, new jerseys, new rivalries. Maybe there are going to be some group rivalries from this. I don't know. But Alex, tell me what happened in the NBA this week.
Well, Andrew, it all started last Friday night. After days of intense debate about the color of basketball courts, it was time to tip off the in-season tournament. And what a first night it was. Of the 7 games on the schedule, 5 ended up in clutch time. 3 came down to the final shot. And the highlight of the night might have been the game in Oklahoma City, where Steph Curry went head-to-head against Luguentz Dort, who led the Thunder with 29 points while SGA sat out with a knee sprain. Steph put up 38 and 7, capping off the night with a floater over Chet Holmgren with 0.2 seconds left, a shot shrouded in controversy. After a basket interference call on Draymond was reversed after a lengthy review, the call appears to have been correct, however, according to people who spent their Friday night reading the NBA rulebook. While Chet couldn't stop Curry on the final play, it was a coming out party for him as he finished with 24, 8, and 5 for the season. Chet, as a rookie, is averaging 17 and 8 with 2.5 assists and 2.5 blocks. He is doing all that on 58, 56, 90 shooting. On Saturday, it was another win for America's team, the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers, led by their big three of Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Kelly Oubre Jr., beat KD and the Suns 112-100 in Philly. After an impressive win later in the week over Boston, Philly now sits atop the Eastern Conference, having won a league-best 6 games in a row. Through 7 games, Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey are both averaging over 25 points per game. If that somehow continued for the rest of the season, it would be the first time in Sixers franchise history that 2 teammates scored at least 25 per game. For the Suns, they bounced back to 500 with wins over Detroit and Chicago later in the week, buoyed by the return of Bradley Beal, who played his first game for Phoenix on Wednesday. On Sunday, the Wemby tour made a stop back in San Antonio for a game against the Toronto Raptors. While Wemby had 29-4 with 5 blocks, very impressive, it was Scotty Barnes' night, who led the Raps back from a 22-point deficit in the first half to win 123-116 in overtime. Barnes scored 17 of his 30 points in the fourth quarter and finished with 30, 11, and 6 with 3 steals, 3 blocks, and 5 three-pointers.
That is so dumb.
Incredibly close to a 5x5. I feel like we've been getting so close to a 5x5.
Oh, we've been teased. We've been
so teased. For the season, Scotty Barnes averaging 22, 10, and 6, 2 blocks and 2 threes per game, 49, 38, 76 shooting splits. The Raps are 4-4 with a juicy matchup against Boston this Saturday. On Monday, it was arguably the biggest statement of the season thus far. A few days after their dominant win over Denver, the Minnesota Timberwolves, sporting the league's #1 defense by a mile, beat the previously undefeated Boston Celtics 114-109 in overtime. The Celtics, who had the league's best offense coming into the game, were held to 39% shooting while committing a season-high 18 turnovers. Anthony Edwards was the star of the show, outscoring Jason Tatum 38-32 while also chipping in 9 rebounds and 7 assists. And while we're celebrating the Wolves and their top-ranked defense, how about a little love for old Rudy Gobert, who so far appears to be having a bounce-back season? The blocks are back. The rim defense is elite. And for the first time in a while, Wolves fans can listen to national podcasts without fear of the Gobert trade being mentioned every single time. On Tuesday, there were no NBA games. Luckily, Wednesday was there to save us with 28 of the 30 teams in action. After being outscored by 14 in the fourth quarter against the Knicks in a loss on Monday night, James Harden was back for Game 2 as a Los Angeles Clipper. He's still a Clipper. This time, the opponent was one of Harden's former teams, the Brooklyn Nets. Now, the Nets lost their offensive star Cam Thomas to a sprained ankle during the game, and so turned their attention to the defensive end, where they held a team starting Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden to 93 total points and under 40% from the field.
Yikes.
After 100-93 loss, Clippers star Paul George said, quote, "You have to understand that it's new. As much as we look good on paper, we have to work as a team. We're a new team, a new group. We understand what we have talent-wise. That's the obvious, but we're patient. We're going to get it right. It's too early." Actually, hold on a second. Oh, sorry, Andrew. This is really embarrassing. That actually wasn't what Paul George said after the Clippers lost on Wednesday. I got my quotes screwed up. That was actually what he said in November 2017 after the Russ PG Mello Thunder team started 8-9. Sorry about that. From Wednesday night. Again, I apologize.
Oh no.
Worried about
Oh
this.
no.
We want to win these games. These are the games we feel we should win, but it's early in the season. We got too much star power here. We got too many great players here for it not to work and not figure it out. Totally different vibes. He's right. How could this not work? Finally, on Thursday night,
Gosh.
Indiana Pacers got an impressive 126 to 124 win over the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks were without Damian Lillard, who sat with a calf injury. Giannis Antetokounmpo picked up the slack by scoring a season high for the league, 54 points in the game, but committed 2 costly turnovers in the final minute after Tyrese Halliburton hit a go-ahead 3 with 90 seconds left. The Pacers are now 6-3 with the number 1 offense in the league per Cleaning the Glass and the 25th ranked defense, but who cares? They're fun. And Tyrese Halliburton has started the season averaging 24, 4, and 12, rounding up through his first 7 games. What a week it was, Andrew.
What a week indeed. There's been so much good basketball, and because of that, there's a lot of players that aren't getting as much shine as they deserve. And so I thought I could just go through 4 players that I think deserve a little bit more shine and maybe just shed some light as to why. So, first one, Michael Porter Jr., who plays for the Denver Nuggets. It's all about the obviously Nikola Jokic, and it should be because he is like everything that makes his team go. Even like some of the rookies and the young guys are getting a lot of shine, Aaron Gordon, but I just don't hear a lot of people talking about MPJ. He's been really good for them. 16 points, 8 boards, 2 assists per game, career high in both assists and rebounds so far this season. He's been really good on the boards and also really good as a defender. There was a ton of possessions where he was guarding Luka in the in-season tournament game last Friday, and I think the Nuggets feel comfortable with that. They were hunting that switch oftentimes, the Mavericks were, and he played him so well. Aaron Gordon, after the game, said teams aren't going to be able to isolate him like that. And if they do, it's going to be a bad look. It's going to be a bad shot. He's 6'10", he's athletic, he has a long wingspan, so it's not an easy score. And then Michael Malone, after the game, also said that what Michael is doing is showing that he cares. He's like, he also commented that nobody's going to be perfect on defense, but that MPJ is showing that he cares on the defensive end, which is kind of what he's always needed to do. He's very athletic. He's a giant. And Aaron Gordon mentioned it. He's 6'10", long arms. All he had to really do was care and like show some effort on Luka, and it made his life really difficult. So a lot of people with the Nuggets like to focus on Jokic, but I think MPJ's leap is coming, and he hasn't even shot the ball all that well yet. I think he's going to shoot the ball better. And if you add the defense, the passing, he's been a monster on the boards from the wing. I think that his season is pretty underrated so far, and I think that he deserves a little bit more shine than he's gotten.
How much credit do you give to Calvin Booth for his off-season comments in the preseason to the Ringer? You know, some mind games.
Hey,
has he created this defensive beast?
Yeah, Calvin Booth has been pushing a lot of buttons over the last couple of years for the Nuggets, and like almost
pushing
all
the right
of them
ones.
almost all of them have worked. So yes, I will give credit where credit's due to Calvin Booth. Next one, I just want to highlight Chet Holmgren real quick. He's been unbelievable for the Thunder. You mentioned it: 16.8 points per game, 7.9 boards, 2.6 assists, a steal, 2.5 blocks, 57, 55, 90 shooting splits. The shooting has been ridiculous. That's the thing that has opened up a ton of things for the Thunder, is that he is a real shooter, and teams have to guard him. And it opens so much up for Shea and Giddey and for J-Dub. But he's 87th percentile as a pick and roll man so far this season. 1.44 points per possession when he is pick and roll man. He's been so good. And then in transition, he's an absolute monster, because he runs the floor well. He can handle in transition. He had a really crazy behind the back pass to Cason Wallace the other night. 1.45 points per possession, 92nd percentile in transition. This team is going to play fast. They're going to get up and down the court. His blocks are leading to transition points against the Hawks. He had 3 blocks that led to 7 points for the Thunder. He's been amazing. And a lot of it's overshadowed because of a lot of the Wembanyama talk. But I think there's room to talk about both. And it's not me saying like we should talk about Chet over Wemby. It's not that. Obviously, we should talk about Victor Wembanyama. Everybody is. But I think there's room enough to talk about Chet too, who's been amazing. And they have a matchup Tuesday night in Oklahoma City. Should be a very, very fun matchup. But yeah, Chet has been outstanding so far for the Thunder. Probably more than you could have asked for from Chet so far.
Hey, and we'll be there, Andrew, next Tuesday.
We'll be there.
You and
in
I.
person, Down to Dunk night. Yep. And if you want more Thunder content, go listen to Down to Dunk. Next, Scotty Barnes. Holy smokes. He's been so good. 21.5 points per game, 10 boards, 6 assists, 1.5 steals, 2.1 blocks per game. Crazy. And the thing that I want to highlight is that he is becoming more of an offensive hub for the Raptors. Last season, he was in the 30th percentile as a pick and roll ball handler, 0.73 points per possession. It's not good. In fact, people were just crying all season. Scotty Barnes isn't a point guard. Why are they doing this? What are the Raptors doing with him? They're ruining Scotty Barnes. This season, he's in the 79th percentile as a pick and roll ball handler. It's working. He's averaging 6 assists per game. Obviously a career high. He's been outstanding. And I just want to point out that sometimes whenever you put players in position to do things that are a little awkward and don't look good, it can be for reasons like this, where I think it was very intentional that they put Scotty Barnes in uncomfortable positions as a playmaker last year so that he can learn and become a better player. And he did that. And I linked this to what we talked about with Sohan last week. I think the Spurs are doing the right thing. Not that Jeremy Sohan's going to come out and average 21, 10, and 6 next year. But I do think that putting players in positions to grow, like they did with Barnes last year, can really help. And Barnes is off to just a ridiculous start to his season. He's been unbelievable.
I went back. We did our offseason pod where we were drafting guys based on who we thought was going to make their first All-Star game. And so I just went back to that to see where, because I couldn't remember where we picked Scotty Barnes. He was the last pick. We came up with 9 other names before we got to Scotty Barnes. And now it seems so obvious in retrospect, because like we knew going into the season, okay, they don't have Fred VanVleet anymore. Yeah. We're expecting him to get a heavier offensive load, which he has gotten. He's just far exceeded any expectation. Like even if you were high on Scotty going into the season, he has exceeded those expectations. Yeah, he's been a blast to watch.
Yeah. Last one, Shaedon Sharpe for the Blazers. He's up to 19 points per game from 9 last year. Obviously, it's because of like the shot attempts. He's like almost doubled his shot attempts. He's also playing 39 minutes a game. He's playing a lot, but it's not even the points to me. It's him using his athleticism to make like winning plays. That block on Luke Kennard to send the game to overtime last Friday night was unbelievable. I mean, he had to come from pretty far away to block that corner 3. That's just such a tough shot to block, but his athleticism is just through the roof. And then in the overtime, game's locked at 106. He hits a step back 3 that really is kind of the dagger of the game. I mean, he was awesome. He was attacking Triple J during that game. He was fearless. He looks pretty good as a passer too. He was not really that at all last year. And you can tell the game is slowing down for him because he can navigate screens well. He's becoming a better passer. I think this experience for him, where he kind of gets to be the man, is going to be a huge blessing in disguise for the Blazers as they go through this season. They're not going to win a lot of games, and that's okay. But if you can get Shaedon Sharpe valuable minutes running the offense and becoming a better decision maker, it's going to pay huge dividends for the Blazers in the future. So shout out to Shaedon Sharpe. He's had a really fun season so far.
I think back to when we were going through the surprise teams, and how much of our attention when we got to the Blazers was about all these vets they had. I think it's a great sign for Blazers fans that like we're at this part of the season we're talking about Shaden Sharp instead of talking
Yeah.
about, like Jeremy Grant or, Malcolm
Yeah.
Brogdon. It's awesome that we're talking about Shaden Sharp, that he's having that much of a jump already in the season. And obviously the injury to Simons helps out a bit because that freed up some usage for him. But he has
Yep.
really stepped up.
Yep.
All right, Andrew. I want to talk about the Houston Rockets because I don't know what to think about this team. They start off the season with a 30-point loss in Orlando, and I'm thinking, same old Rockets, these guys. All those offseason moves just to be garbage again. And then they drop their next two to the Spurs and Warriors. And at this point, I'm on Tankathon. I'm seeing if OKC can land the top 5 protected Rockets pick right at pick number 5. That's what I was doing. I was excited. But then they win their next 3, and I start to take a little notice because even though the opponents weren't great, it was Charlotte and then 2 wins over the Kings without De'Aaron Fox. All those games were at home. I'm starting to notice that the underlying stats are really popping for Houston. But I say to myself, look at this upcoming schedule. It's brutal, starting with the Lakers game on Wednesday. Now the real Rockets will reveal themselves, and I can happily go back to clicking the button on Tankathon. But they win 128-94. They destroy the Lakers. Even if you think that this schedule has been easy, they've been destroying these teams. So now I'm starting to get a little intrigued because the numbers are starting to look insane. Are the Houston Rockets sending early season signals that they've got more juice than I thought? Or is some of this smoke and mirrors? So today we are going to decide, Andrew. I'm going to go through some of these eye-popping stats with you. And then as a counterbalance, I'll bring up some things that may be boosting their numbers a little bit. Okay, so let's start with this. There are currently 4 teams who are top 10 in both offensive and defensive efficiency per cleaning the glass. It is Boston, Denver, Philly, and Houston. That's right. The Houston Rockets, winners of literally 59 games over the last 3 seasons, are currently the 8th ranked offense and 7th ranked defense. They have the 5th best point differential behind those 3 teams I mentioned and Minnesota. You dig in a little deeper, and the numbers are kind of shocking. The Rockets have the 2nd best half-court offense in the league right now. Sometimes with young teams, you assume, they're probably playing fast, getting out and running. They must be doing a lot of their damage in transition. No, not the case here. Houston is putting up 103.1 points per 100 possessions in the half court, which is about as good as Boston was in the half court last season when they won 57 games. And for comparison, this Houston team put up 90.7 points per 100 possessions in the half court last season, which was dead last in the league. It gets crazier, though. Their starting lineup, so Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, Jabari Smith, and Alperen Şengün, they played 240 possessions together so far, which is actually more than every other 5-man unit except for Denver's starters, who they will pass soon because of Jamal Murray's injury. In those 240 possessions, the Rockets starting lineup has a plus 19.6 differential. Now, for some context, Denver's starting lineup last season was a plus 12.7. Now, it's obviously incredibly early in the season, but Houston's starting lineup has been killing teams. And what's been surprising to me is it's been on both ends. A couple weeks ago, I made a bold prediction that Houston would finish in the top half for defensive efficiency. A prediction that I was basing on the idea that everyone other than Jalen Green and Şengün should be solid defensively, and Ime Udoka is a good defensive coach. But the starting lineup, which includes those 2 players I was trying to ignore in my prediction, have held teams to 101.7 points per 100 possessions, which is an absurd number. Even for an 8-game stretch, it's absurd, especially considering who is involved. And I wanted to mention Şengün specifically because, he's gotten this reputation as a bad defender, someone you can target in the pick and roll. That hasn't been the case early on in the season. The Rockets have been significantly better defensively when Şengün has been on the court. Kelly Iko had a nice write-up about Şengün's defense and how the team is both putting him in a position to succeed this year and also how he's feeding off of guys like Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks. And, I was watching the Lakers game, and it's not like, he's Rudy Gobert all of a sudden. You can still see the limitations. He still barely gets off the ground when he's trying to block some of these attempts at the rim. You can still beat him off the dribble if a small guard has, a lot of juice behind him. And those long-term questions about how his defense will hold up in the playoffs, that's likely going to continue until we see it. But for right now, who cares? We're talking about a team who was truly awful defensively for 3 years, finally finding a rhythm defensively, and they're finding that rhythm with the players everyone was worried about being on the court. That feels significant to me. Now, I did mention that there would be some counterbalance to this, and here it is. First off, the schedule. After Sunday's games, the Rockets will be tied with the Pacers for most home games played in the league so far, and that is about to change. In the next 10 games, they have road games against the Clippers, 2 at the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Warriors, and the Mavs. They actually play the Nuggets 3 times in their next 10 games. And the other 2 games are home games against New Orleans and Memphis. That is quite the stretch. All of those numbers I just mentioned, they're going to come back down to earth a little bit. The question is how much? Like, how much of these early season signals are real? Can the Rockets go 5-5 in that stretch, which I think would be wildly impressive? Even something like 4-6 would feel like a win for the Rockets. The second thing to mention is the Rockets have been beneficiaries of some early season shooting luck. Opponents are currently shooting 24.4% on corner threes against the Rockets, which is kind of incredible. Last year, as a comparison, Denver's opponent shot the worst from the corners, 35%. Again, Rockets opponents right now, 24.4% from the corners. That number is going to come up. Meanwhile, on the other end, the Rockets are shooting 39% as a team from 3. Dylan Brooks, Jayshawn Tate, and Jalen Green are all shooting over 45% from 3. And all 3 of those guys shot under 34% from 3 last season. Now, they may have all improved, but probably not that much. And you look across the roster, everyone who is taking threes is making threes, other than Amen Thompson. So with all that said, I do think I might believe in Houston, not like as a playoff lock or anything, but I look at the Western Conference right now, and as of today, I feel way better about them than teams like Memphis, Utah, San Antonio, Portland. Like, just based on that, I've already got them in the 11th spot, so they're in play-in range in my head. I continue to believe that their defense is going to be the thing that is real for them this season. Definitely not at the level their starting lineup is playing right now because it's ridiculous. But I do think they can be good. The shooting will likely regress at some point. But if they can come out of this season with a defensive identity and be in the play-in range, I think that would be a massive success given their last couple seasons. So, let's see how they fare in these next 10. We'll check back and see if the signals were real or if I was bamboozled by some early season smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, another potentially positive thing for them is like Tari Eason's been dealing with an injury.
Yeah,
he's like he had a stress reaction, so he's back, and I think he can contribute in a positive way to their defense. Offensively, he's kind of a wild card, but defensively, like, he's a really nice player for them. So there's still some positive things to come. I think that they're somewhere in the middle of all of this. I think that they're obviously not top 10 in both offensive and defense, but just to make improvements. Like, can we just improve? I think that that's where they're at. Can they make steps toward, like you said, the play-in? And they don't have to make it. I think making it in the West is going to be really tough. The West is
like, honestly,
ridiculous.
If they just come out of this season being able to have a functional defense with Jalen Green and Şengün in your starting lineup, like, that alone would be a huge win because then you feel more positive about them going forward.
Yeah. If they can win like 33 games or something like that and just have a functional defense where you feel that they can take steps forward and work in Amen Thompson a little bit more, then I think they're headed down the right path for sure. Speaking of headed down the right path, we're going to talk about the New York Knicks right after this.
All right, Andrew, it is time for the Wheel of Fandom, our weekly segment where we spin a wheel, it lands on a team, and we become fans of that team for the next week. And this week, the wheel landed on the New York Knicks. The Knicks started off the week with a close loss to the Bucks last Friday, a game in which Jalen Brunson scored 45 points, but quickly bounced back with wins over the Clippers in James Harden's debut and the San Antonio Spurs. The Knicks are now 4-4 with the 19th ranked offense and 3rd ranked defense per Cleaning the Glass. Andrew, if the Knicks are our favorite team, who is our guest?
Well, we tried to find somebody that covered the Knicks, but all I could find is someone who just loves the Pacers. That's just how he's known. I'm not even sure he writes about the Knicks anymore. I think he just loves the Pacers. Also, one of my great friends and just a great dude. And I'm just so glad to have him on our podcast. It's Fred Katz of The Athletic. Fred, what's up, man?
If only people could see the Slack channel with you, me, and Sam Amick, which is legitimately me having a conversation with myself. It's supposed to be where we talk business for the, Thursday episode of the Athletic NBA show where we do tampering. And it's supposed to be that. And it's instead 6 days of me having conversations with myself about the Pacers.
Yep.
And then a day before the pod happens, Amick being like, all right, let's talk about this. Or you being like, let's talk about this. And me responding in all caps, being like, I'll say something about the Pacers.
Yep.
And I've gone from being very helpful on that podcast, I think, if I don't say so myself, helping outline it, putting together many of the segments, to honestly just completely ruining 20% of the Athletic NBA show. And I'm thrilled about it. And you know what? I'm right. The Pacers are so fun. They are so fun.
Yeah, they are.
That Bucks game last night was completely and utterly outrageous. Everything about it was absurd. They're even turning Adrian Griffin into a man of two technicals in 2 seconds.
It's beautiful.
It's everything about the Pacers is completely.
Hey, listen, Fred, shut up about the Pacers. We're going to talk about the Knicks, okay?
So let's talk about Reggie Miller now, and we can really tie that into the Knicks.
Can we do a Jamal Tinsley segment? Like, I just want to talk about Jamal Tinsley. Okay, so let's talk about RJ Barrett, who's still only 23. He's off to a great start to his season, averaging 22, 3, and 3, shooting 47% from 3. He's making defensive impact. He's a team best plus 15.6 per cleaning the glass. How much are we seeing of like this early RJ that feels sustainable to you?
I don't care about the percentages. Okay. I've never really cared about the percentages, or I should say I've never cared about the percentages when we're only talking about the percentages, right? That's the thing that people have always fixated on with RJ. It's the efficiency, the 3-point shooting, but it's not just the efficiency beyond the arc, right? Like he hasn't been a good finisher around the rim. He hasn't made his jump shots, on short twos or anything like that. He doesn't really dabble with long twos, which is a good thing. But the efficiency has always been a problem. To me, the way the efficiency was going to get better was always if the decision-making got better. He would predetermine stuff. You could tell when he caught a ball, it was like, I am going to drive here, or I am going to pass here. And then when he drove, kickouts were not as common. They weren't as crisp. They were often after the defense collapsed too late. He didn't really find guys in the wing. He could occasionally find a guy in the corner. So often he'd end up just throwing up a shot out of a triple team at the end of a drive, and it wouldn't work out well. And I always thought if he just started to make the intuitive basketball play, the efficiency numbers would rise with it, because he would eliminate those off-balance shots out of triple teams. And he would probably be able to create some better looks for himself. Now, I don't think it's going to maintain as this. He's shooting 47% from 3. That's ridiculous. He shot 31 last year. I don't think anybody anticipates he's going to shoot 37 from 3 or 47 from 3.
Yeah.
Even if he were to plummet from the 3-point arc to where he was last year, and he just shot 31% from 3 for the rest of the year. By the way, free throws at 85 for him is a big deal too. That's something he's worked really, really hard on. He's never been over 80. He's had a goal to get over 80 this year. And right now he's doing that. That might be real. He came in preseason. He was telling me like he's going to shoot 80 this year. He feels like an 80% shooter. So maybe that's real. But to me, the big thing is his decision-making is better than it's ever been. There was a play late in the Spurs game on Wednesday night where he got the ball in the corner coming off of a screen, and the old RJ would have gone 2 dribbles to the rim, maybe got into a layup, maybe got into a contested shot, maybe had to panic and kick to a corner or something. And instead, RJ went 1 dribble, immediately noticed that a defender was sagging off of quickly on the wing on the other side of the court, flung the ball across the court to Quickly in a fantastic pass, who immediately touch passed it to Julius Randle in the corner for an open 3. That was not a play that he made last year. And it was not a remarkable play with the way that he's been playing so far this year. He's just been making the right play. He's been smarter. I think he's been much better defensively this year than he was last year. I think we're seeing real improvement from him that just kind of stems from work and institutional knowledge and experience.
So on the opposite end of the spectrum, Julius Randle currently shooting 31.6% from the field. I looked it up on StatHead. The last time Randle had an 8-game stretch in a season shooting this poorly was as a 21-year-old playing his first full season in the NBA. Now, I get that a guy can get cold from 3, but how is he shooting 29.4% in the restricted area? Like, how is that even possible? And I know you just posted an article about how he's using Mitchell Robinson's screens to help him break out of this slump. So what is the path forward for Julius?
So you asked Julius about it, and he talks about how crowded the paint is. You know, the Knicks don't really have 3-point shooting, and he always talks about how he's running into bodies, is the way that he puts it. But I don't think that's the reason, because they have the exact same starting 5 they did last year. And 8 of the 9 rotation players they had last year are back. And I'm not buying it. I'm just not buying it. Meanwhile, the only change they made in the rotation was subbing out Obi Toppin and bringing in Dante DiVincenzo, who's a better 3-point shooter. They had a cramped paint last year. Maybe it's more cramped this year because teams know how they operate, know who they are, and know that they can pack the paint against them. But Julius found a way to be all NBA. I'm not buying that as why he's not hitting shots. Look, he's coming off of ankle surgery. I think it would be irresponsible to mention that. He had it over the summer, and he wasn't able to play 5-on-5 all summer. He wasn't cleared for 5-on-5 until training camp, and he's a guy who normally, that's how he works out over the summer. He plays a lot of pickup. That's kind of his. Some guys don't play as much pickup. He plays a lot. So I'm sure that messed with his rhythm, and I'm not surprised that he started cold. That being said, he started the year through 6 games. He was 17% in the restricted area. 17%.
Holy
and was shooting
smokes.
27% from the field and 22% from 3. And you know what my take from the Knicks' first 6 games was? When Julius just, I mean, insane, like 15 plus shots a game and 27% from the field. And it wasn't just that. I mean, like, you know, not really running back on defense and not moving the ball as well as he should and all these other things. And my crazy hot take, which I feel like Alex will like this take. My take is that if Julius Randle were a little better in the first 6 games, I would have been more pessimistic about his season. Like he was so bad
that he just
That it
felt like
had
an
to get
anomaly.
so inexplicably bad that I'm like, this is, no one would shoot 27% on this many shots. And the way the misses are terrible and the shots are terrible and the way he's operating is terrible. Like, he was fantastic last year. He was great. He was all NBA last year. He was fantastic. And there's just no way. Like, if he was shooting 34%, I'd be like, oof, cold start for Julius. He's operating more like he did 2 years ago. This isn't great. But when he was shooting 27, I was like, no way. This is just fake. I'm just not even buying this. This is just a glitch. It's not even real. Like, there's nothing to take away from this. It's so horrific. Like, they'll just change literally everything. And they've tried some new stuff to get him going. And he was good on Monday against the Clippers. He got downhill going to the rim a bunch. I think he was 5 for 9 at the rim in that game, which is not a phenomenal number, but he was struggling to get to the rim. You know, when I said he was shooting 17%, he was 3 for 18 in 6 games. That's 6 times a game, or 3 times a game at the rim. I mean, that's not Julius Randle, you know, and maybe that comes back to the ankle. But he got to the rim 9 times in that Clippers game. They're using different actions to spring him there. As you mentioned, I just wrote about how he's running pick and rolls with Mitchell Robinson now, which is a thing that he never did. And that's a way that they're trying to get the opposing big man away from the paint, which is allowing Julius to get downhill more because he has to come up high with Mitch when Mitch sets the screen. I think he'll turn it around. I think he'll be good. But those first 6 games were like crazy. Everyone's like, the Knicks are 2-4. What's up with the Knicks? I'm like, whatever is up with the Knicks. Like, the answer is it's just that Julius Randle is shooting 5 for 20 all the time. And they're losing a close game to the Bucks, and they're losing a close game to the Cavs, and they're losing a close game to Boston. And if Julius just shoots like 35% in 2 of those games, now the Knicks are 4-2, and now they're 6-2, and nobody's saying anything about what's wrong with the Knicks.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm glad you brought up the rim volume because I was watching the Clippers game and I was watching his possessions at the rim and it felt more just like I think Zubats is just having like a good game as a rim defender. Like he blocked him twice. He was affecting a lot of shots. But like you mentioned, like Randall was getting to the rim more in that game. It just felt like every time he got there, Zubats was making a pretty nice play most of the time. So that's interesting. Okay. So early in the season, he wasn't even getting to the rim.
You guys should know that. You're like longtime diehard Knicks fans, aren't you? Isn't that what the wheel said?
No, only as of last Friday night. And
Yes. Can I make a comment on the podcast?
Yeah.
Which I listen to and is great.
Always.
So Alex often says the Knicks week started off with a loss to the Bucks on Friday, right?
That's right.
And I feel like you guys think that even though your podcast is fantastic, as good of an NBA podcast as exists, in my opinion. I feel like you guys think that your podcast is so good that you can just redefine what a week is. The next week didn't start on a Friday.
When do you start?
The week doesn't start on a Friday. You can't just
How should we
constantly
phrase
say
it? How
that
should
a
it be
week
phrased?
starts the next past week. The next past week could work. Or you can name it the Slam-a-Jam week. Something. But you can't say the Knicks week started on Friday.
You feel like we're infringing on your idea of a week just by bringing it up.
I feel like you're infringing on just anyone's idea.
So
wow.
So if we just said
no one has ever.
Knicks...
As a matter of fact, if we get back down to it, I can't think of a day that is less the start of a week than a Friday. Like
interesting.
if I had you rank every single day on what felt the most like the start of the week to least start of the week, Friday would be number 7.
And would you say that's wrong though? Because if the week did start on Friday, that's a great start to your week. Every week. I mean, otherwise, what are you starting on a Monday? That's terrible. Sunday scaries.
Sunday you can say starts the week. There are 2 acceptable answers to start of their week. Sunday, Monday, that's it. Or whenever the first game after Sunday or Monday is. 3 acceptable answers. That's it. That's all you got.
So I think Fred's saying that we don't have to watch
it.
the weekend games. We can just start watching the Slam-a-Jam
No,
team
I'm not
on
saying
Monday.
that. I'm saying that you are offending anybody who thought they knew what a week was. And I just needed to clear that up because I just hear started their week on Friday and I can't deal. How lazy are these people who start their weeks on Fridays?
They sound pretty cool to me.
That sounds awesome. Now that you're saying it, it sounds amazing. Now that you're saying it, this is great. It
sounds as somebody with a horrible and extremely unhealthy work-life balance that is killing my body and my mind in every way imaginable. A week starting on Friday sounds awful. It just sounds terrible. Give me cholesterol problems forever and lack of sleep.
Wow. Let's talk about the Knicks defense, Fred. Alex mentioned that they're ranked 3rd per cleaning the glass, which makes sense for a Tibbs coach team. But last year, this same team with a very similar roster finished the season ranked 19th in defense. So what's been different on the defensive end for this group early on?
Starts with Mitchell Robinson. I think if I had to name the 2 biggest bright spots for this team right now, in some order, 1 and 2 would be RJ Barrett and Mitchell Robinson. I mean, they both seem like they've really made a leap forward. And if you're just looking at the box scores, it's easy to tell with Barrett. It's not as easy to tell with Robinson, who is averaging only 1 block a game, which is not a lot for him, who's averaging 6 points a game, which even for him is, I think, a career low. He's, at least since he started playing regularly, he is not putting up those kinds of numbers, but my goodness, has he been a beast on the defensive end for pretty much every single game that they've played so far. He's a better, more disciplined pick and roll defender than I've ever seen him as. When he is on the floor, he just locks down the paint. He's a fabulous rim protector. He's deterring drivers. There was a possession in the Clippers game on Monday where he had to switch onto Kawhi. Kawhi was on the left wing, and it was just him and Kawhi. And this is like early season healthy Kawhi, right?
Mhm.
And Kawhi tries to go to the rim. It goes right. And he can't get to the rim. Like Mitch just keeps him away from the rim the whole time. So Kawhi just tries to dribble through the paint, and he tries this little off balance turnaround 9-footer, and Mitch contests it right in his face and he airballs it. I'm like, this is a MVP caliber player in his prime who's actually healthy that we know of right now, and who's been playing like Kawhi Leonard, and Mitch is just sticking with these guys now. When he's on the floor, they're a different sort of animal. They are forcing more turnovers than they did last year. Tibbs defenses, not always, but generally are not high turnover defenses, even when they're at their best. And the reason why is because Tibbs believes that kind of great principles come in before you start trying for the turnovers. He believes that the best way to get turnovers is to have excellent ball pressure and then stay in your shell behind that ball pressure. And then when somebody messes up, then you pounce, right?
Mhm.
And that is happening a lot more this year. The ball pressure has been good. Grimes is good on the wing. Hart is good on the wing. DiVincenzo is feisty. RJ Barrett's been much better defensively. He was pretty good when he came into the league defensively his first few seasons, and I thought he fell off pretty significantly during the regular season last year on the defensive side. And I think he's recovered what he was before. He's been totally solid for them. And Mitch, man, and Hartenstein as well. Like just having that paint protection for 48 minutes is really big for them and has been really helpful. And I don't know if they're going to stay in the top 3 all year, but I do think them being a legitimately good defense I would expect that for the rest of the season, especially if Mitch is going to keep playing at this level, because between the way that he's guarding, the way that he rebounds now, I mean, he is right up there with the tier 1 best rebounders in the NBA at this point, not just on offensive rebounds, because he averages like 6.5 defensive rebounds a game, 6 defensive rebounds a game. But Julius Randle vacuums up all the open ones, like his rebounds are tough in traffic, 3 people around him, tapping it up 7 times and recovering it, rebounds. He gets difficult rebounds like all the time. And meanwhile, he is tracking to become the first player in 26 years to average more than 6 offensive rebounds a game. So this dude has really become a fantastic player in his role, that defensive anchor and screener and roller and diver and offensive rebounder.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that offensive rebounding because, as you mentioned, he's averaging over 6 offensive rebounds per game. And for context, the next closest player in the league is grabbing around 4 per game. By the way, do either of you know who that is?
Is that Asar Thompson?
It's rookie Asar Thompson.
Yeah,
which is pretty impressive on its own.
Wonderful guess.
What is it about Robinson's game that makes him this much better than anyone else at this specific skill?
It's a great question. I've asked it to Tibbs many times. His strength, his length, his anticipation. He's really relentless. Like he does the just tap it, keep it alive, keep tapping.
Yeah.
I remember there was a couple of years ago, and he's always been a legitimately great offensive rebounder, but it hasn't been this level. He led the league in offensive rebound rate last year. That was an 18% offensive rebound rate. It was a phenomenal number. It was the 12th best single season offensive rebound rate in the history of the NBA. A phenomenal offensive rebounding season. And this year, he's up to over 20% so far, which right now he's just barely below Dennis Rodman's all-time single season record, which is it's an insane start to a season. And offensive rebounding percentage is the percentage of your team's misses that you get when you're on the floor. So like his offensive rebounding percentage on the season is higher than like 5 teams' offensive rebounding percentage. What makes him so good at it, he's so incredible with his second jump, I think, is a big part of it. So when he's doing that tap, tap, tap thing, he's just getting back up quicker than the next guy. He's really become great at carving out space down low, blocking out a million guys. His arms are so long. And a couple of years ago, he came into camp. He had off-season surgery, and he came into camp too heavy. And I don't think he was fat. His mission over the summer was like he was going to put on bulk and muscle. He was like trying to bulk up because he had ankle or foot surgery, and he couldn't really do cardio. And so he was like, I don't want to get out of shape, so I'm going to work out a lot. But he couldn't run because he was wearing a boot and whatever. And he got too big. And I think it affected his athleticism. It affected his quickness. And then all of a sudden, the next year, he slims down a little bit. But he kind of realized during that season, like, you know what, if I'm this big, like I can guard guys like Joel Embiid. So what if I just find my medium? And all the players are talking about how he is in the best shape he's ever been in now. And he's kind of found that medium where when he first came in the league, he was really skinny and he was this bouncy, skinny, kind of Nick Claxton like sort of center. And now he's just this physical, dominant force who has the athleticism to pair with it. And he's become a heck of a player. I mean, I think he's really become a heck of a player. He's been one of the most important players this year.
So Fred, thinking ahead, and when you think of the Knicks of the past, you think of somebody who's trying to take a big swing, like all the time, like trying to get a big name. We haven't heard much of that recently, but how motivated do you think the Knicks front office is to like use some of the extra picks that they have and like movable pieces to upgrade the roster like soon? What are your thoughts on that?
We'll define upgrade the roster because there are different levels of upgrading the roster.
Sure, like a meaningful, like, hey, now the Knicks are in a new tier because they've made this deal.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they've been waiting on. So I think there's a ton of urgency to make that. I also think the organization doesn't expect a player of that level to become available until next summer, the earliest, whether it's Joel Embiid or somebody else. But I mean, look, like we keep talking about, is Joel Embiid going to be available? And you keep wondering, okay, if Joel Embiid wants out, might he want the Knicks? There are all these murmurs that he might want the Knicks if he wants out. But right now he doesn't want out. He loves the idea of, having a single team legacy. He loves Philly. He loves the Sixers. Meanwhile, the Sixers have the best record in the conference right now. He's playing as well as he ever has. Why are we so convinced that that Embiid is just going to say that he wants out after this year? That team's still good, and they're going to have some flexibility. So I don't know who it's going to be. There's always some star who becomes available. It's the NBA. But I think they're more anticipating that happens next summer. That being said, I'm keeping my eye on the Raptors, who no one knows what the hell no one ever knows what the Raptors are going to do, because they'll call you up. They'll be like, hey, we're thinking about shopping this guy. And then you'll be like, oh, okay, give us 2 seconds. Let us talk and we'll call you back. And you call them back. And then they're like, what are you talking about? That guy's not available. And then the next day they'll be like, oh, were you still interested in this guy? We're just circling back. And they'll be like, what? You said he's not available. And they're like, no, he's available now. And then call back and be like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But can you send us your Netflix password along with 17 first round picks? And they're like, my Netflix password, that's also my Gmail password. I don't want you getting into my email. And this is how it tends to go. So Siakam's an upcoming free agent, and OG Anunoby's an upcoming free agent. And I know the Knicks and people in that front office have really liked OG Anunoby for a while. I know that they called Toronto about him leading into last year's trade deadline. I know they made an offer that was like a real offer, and Toronto was like, no. And so as they were with other teams, like Toronto has gotten real offers for OG. And I also know that Toronto, as we've seen with Kyle Lowry, as we've seen with Fred VanVleet, Toronto, even if the team is totally unremarkable, Toronto is willing to be like, nah, we'll just let you walk. Just go away. You can go. So maybe that happens with Anunoby or Siakam. I don't know. I have no idea, which is exactly why I'm keeping an eye on that team in particular, especially because I know the Knicks like Anunoby. And also, like, That's the dude who, amongst non-star caliber players, like that is the dude they need. You know, they need someone who can guard big wings, can play the 3 and the 4. Randall is their only real 4. Gives them extra size. They have a bunch of guards 6'5" and under. It gives them size, gives them strength, gives them a little creation off the dribble, gives them a real one-on-one defensive presence with size. Like that is a great fit for them. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on. But for now, it's just like legitimately me keeping an eye. There's nothing there.
Mm-hmm. Well, Fred, thank you for answering all of our questions about the Knicks. But it is now time to play Andrew versus the Beat, our weekly trivia show where Andrew goes head-to-head against an NBA beat writer. This week, Fred Katz, beat writer for The Athletic. Now, Andrew has started the season off 0-3. I see people on the message boards questioning whether Andrew's washed. Is he washed? Is he a washed king? We'll see.
I was definitely washed last week. It was so bad.
I just want to say, every time I come on this podcast, I love you both. And I love listening to this segment. And it's great podcasting. But my anxiety is through the roof during this podcast because I'm just certain that anytime I get something wrong, it's going to discredit anything I've ever said about the Knicks. And
that's how it works.
Yep. It's just awful.
That is the segment.
You guys are like, why don't we have a professional on? We'll get him to tell us everything he knows. And then we're just going to spend the rest of the time embarrassing him and then kick him off.
We're going to undercut everything you just said by making you answer these trivia questions. Okay,
we're about to find out if anything you said is worth anything.
Hey, it's the start of the week. It's so
it's not the beginning of the week.
Yeah.
So we have 8 questions, all about the Knicks. Some are easy, some are hard, some are impossible, in my opinion. You will choose a number between 1 and 8, correspond to a question. And where would you like to start? Fred, any number.
8.
Question number 8. Mitchell Robinson currently leads the Knicks in total rebounds, total steals, and total blocks. There are 3 other players in the NBA currently doing the same for their teams. Who are they? And you get 1 point per correct answer. So these are players around the league who are leading their teams in total rebounds, steals, and blocks.
Wow.
That's really hard.
It is.
Total rebounds, steal. Do I have to get all 3?
No, you could just get 1, get a point, and be happy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's run through. Am I allowed to look at teams to remind, like the standings, to remind myself of the teams that exist?
Yeah, okay. You can remind yourself what teams exist in the NBA. I don't see a problem with that.
Otherwise, I forget about teams that exist. Rebounds, steals, and blocks.
Yeah.
All right.
Rebounds.
I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess. Giannis.
Giannis Antetokounmpo. That is incorrect. Andrew,
seriously,
you have a chance to steal.
Brooke Lopez having 8 blocks in a game really annihilated it. I was thinking Brooke wasn't blocking as many shots to start the year.
This is hard because all 3 is tough. Like Embiid is 1, but I don't think he would have the most steals on the Sixers. So I don't know that that's right. I also think about Chet, but I don't think Chet has the most steals on the Thunder either. I also think about Draymond, but I don't know that Draymond has. He probably doesn't even lead the team with the most rebounds because he hasn't played enough. God, this is a ridiculous question.
No, it's not. Completely valid.
This is one of the impossible ones.
Yeah, this feels impossible. What about Wemby?
Andrew, that is correct for 1 point. Wemby. Victor Wembanyama.
Victor Wembanyama. What about Asar Thompson?
Andrew, that is also correct.
Yes!
For another point. Asar Thompson. Can you get the third name?
Third name.
Third name.
What about Bam Adebayo?
Andrew. That's
Is that
wrong.
it?
That's
Oh,
incorrect.
dang
no,
it.
it's incorrect.
All right.
The reason I asked this question is because I like the answers. I thought they were so interesting. It's
I'm
Victor
sensing a
Wembanyama.
theme. I'm sensing a theme, and I feel like the third one's going to be Chet, and it's just all rookies.
It's not
No,
all
I don't
rookies,
think it's
but
Chet.
the
I don't
third
think he
one,
has a. I don't think he has a steal as much.
it's another
steals.
fun one, which is Scotty Barnes, which makes
Oh,
perfect
yeah.
sense when you think
Oh
about
man,
it.
I should have gotten that one too because I
gotten
talked
that.
about him in our first segment.
Yeah. All right, great start, Andrew, and you have control of the
Oh.
board.
Number one.
Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson are both averaging double-digit rebounds through 8 games. The last time two teammates played at least half their team's games and averaged double-digit rebounds was in the 2017-18 season when these two Western Conference bigs accomplished the feat. Who are they?
2017-18 Western Conference bigs.
Western Conference
Oh my
bigs.
gosh. Who would
Two
that be?
double-digit bounders.
17-18. Two Western Conference bigs. That's not. No, this is not right. I don't know that. I don't think I know
It
this.
could be. You never know.
I mean, it's definitely not. Gosh.
I will say you guys picked the 2 hardest questions to start.
Yeah, this feels impossible. Is this like? I'm trying to think who played with Gobert in 2017-18. No, that would not have been it. Gosh, I just don't even know, Al. Like, I don't even know that I have a guess for you.
Wow. Fred, do you have any guesses?
Do I have any guesses?
I have narrowed it down to
17-18.
15 teams.
17-18. It's not Cantor and Adams because that was the year that Cantor went to the Knicks.
Yeah.
Trying to remember what happened in 2017-18.
This was PG
that the
and
year-
Mello.
Oh. Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins.
That is absolutely correct.
Ah,
All right.
wow.
We're off
That's
to a
a
good
good one.
start. You guys got
Good
points from the
callback.
2 hardest questions. And Fred, you have control of the board.
Can't honestly did not remember until just now that DeMarcus Cousins even played for the Pelicans. And the only reason I got that right is because Andrew texted me yesterday that Rachel Nichols and DeMarcus Cousins are having a podcast. And we were like, this seems like
Ooh.
a podcast Mad Lib. We're like, what if I told you Rachel Nichols and DeMarcus Cousins had a podcast 5 years ago? Like, what is happening? How'd that happen?
Yeah.
When
So
you
it's
said
fresh
that, I
on the
thought you
mind.
said Rachel Ray, and I was like, whoa, that really is a wild combo.
That would be wild.
I would be way more into that, I think.
Do you think a DeMarcus Cousins Rachel Ray podcast would be more likely to be about basketball or food?
It's got to be a YouTube show. There's got to be video.
Yeah, I was gonna say
maybe they're cooking while they're talking ball. You know,
I think that's a much better show idea, right there.
I mean, that I would watch that.
Yeah,
Just
of
like
course
Rachel
you would.
Ray making amazing food and DeMarcus Cousins being really enthusiastic about how good the food is.
Reacting to the food.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want that? Okay, all right, we got to go on.
Okay. Number 3.
Question number 3. R.J. Barrett is off to a great start this season, as we mentioned, averaging a career high 22.3 points per game. Only one Knick in franchise history averaged more points per game in a season before turning 24 years old. Who was that Knick?
Before turning 24. What'd you say the number was he was at right now again?
22.3 points per game. So somebody else averaged more than that before
I
the
can't
age
remember if Kristaps got above that number. He averaged 22 something. And I don't remember if Kristaps got to that. I'm going to say Kristaps.
Fred? That is correct for 2 points.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, Andrew, you're now behind 3-2. You do have control of the board.
Number 2.
Question number 2. Julius Randle is currently shooting 32%, as I mentioned, on 17 field goal attempts per game. Now, normally, you'd have to go back to the 1950s to find a player who shot that poorly on that volume of attempts. But luckily for Randle, there's another player this season shooting under 35% on 17 attempts per game. Who is it?
Oh my gosh. Under 35%, 17 attempts. My brain goes to the Wizards immediately, but I don't know if that's right or not. It feels like a Wizardsy thing. 17 attempts is a lot. Under 35%. I don't know who that would be. Is it LaMelo?
That is incorrect, Andrew. Fred, you have any
shot.
guesses?
Alex, when did you come up with this question?
I came up with it 2 nights ago.
Okay, so then I don't know how he had a big game last night. So I don't know how this affects his percentages, but I'm going to guess Trae Young.
Oh
It is
man,
Trae
that's
Young.
it. That's it.
I didn't want to reveal
I just
it.
saw him be so bad in Oklahoma City. I just watched it.
Yeah, as I was asking the question, I was like, oh wait, he played last night. What is he at now? He's now at 35.6. So I didn't want to
Okay, we'll count it. We'll count it. No, yeah, we'll count it. It was right there. It was in the answer.
Why didn't I get that? I'm so mad at myself.
I don't know. Fred, 4-2 now.
I like
that
you hear terrible, selfish, inefficient basketball, and everyone's like, "What about the Wizards?" Number 6.
Wizards doing? Question number 6. Last season, Jalen Brunson averaged a career-high 6 assists per game. Now, that number might not seem impressive, but he's one of only 15 New York Knicks in franchise history to average at least 6 assists per game, and we're going to name them all. So how this works, Fred, you'll give me a name. Andrew will give me a name. We'll go back and forth till one of you stumbles. So these are players in Knicks history who have averaged at least 6 assists per game. I will tell you the minimum games played for any of these guys was like 37. So there's no guys who just played like 2 games and average a bunch of assists.
Okay,
so Fred, where would you like to start?
This is like full on Stump the Schwab.
This is Schwab style.
This is
Schwab style.
Okay, Marbury.
Stephon Marbury, that is correct. Andrew.
Walt Frazier.
Walt Frazier, that is correct. Back to Fred.
Raymond Felton.
Raymond Felton, the thick daddy. Yes, that is correct. Back to Andrew.
Raymond Felton. Holy smokes. Knicks point guard is a rough position to play. What about Mark Jackson?
Mark Jackson, that is correct, Andrew. All right, you've gotten 4 of the 15. Back to Fred.
Yeah, Mark Jackson's a good one. Trying to think if like any of the old school guys did it, like Richie Guerin, or if like Michael Ray Richardson must have done it. Oh, you know who I know did it? I'm just gonna say it. Chris Duhon.
Chris Duhon did do it.
Chris Duhon. Gosh, that's a pull. I'll use one of Fred's names that he just said that he didn't use, Michael Ray Richardson.
Andrew, very smart play by you. That is correct.
Why did I just give him the names?
I don't know why you did that.
That was such a dumb thing to do. I kind of just forgot what was happening. If someone did that on Stump the Schwab, be like, what a moron. What an idiot. All right.
Yeah, because I think I'm out of names now. I'm gonna Fred with the assist.
I'm gonna reach back to our when I need 5 more to get my name on the list. I'm gonna reach back to the time of our grandparents, and I'm gonna say Richie Guerin.
Richie Guerin. I'm glad you said it, because if Andrew had stolen it, it would have been correct. So now, Andrew, it's back to you. You can't use Richie Guerin, which was the other name Fred said.
Oh my gosh.
Any other names, Andrew? New York Knicks averaging at least 6 assists per game for a season.
Did Mo Cheeks do it?
Andrew? That is incorrect.
Ugh.
The other names, the names you could have gotten, Andrew. Julius Randle
Yeah.
did it. Alfred Payton did it. And Jeremy Lin did it.
Oh,
Then we go back a little bit further. Chris Childs, Gerald Henderson, Rory Sparrow. Then you go back a little longer. Ray Williams, a.k.a. Crazy Eddie. Dick McGuire, a.k.a. Slick Dick. And Howard Comives, a.k.a. Howard. He didn't have a nickname.
Wait, was Dick McGuire's nickname Slick Dick?
He actually has multiple nicknames that involve.
Or did you make that
the
up?
word Dick. No, I would never make that up. Let's look at Dick McGuire's.
I gotta.
Okay, all of his names are Tricky Dick, Dick the Nick, Slick Dick, and Dicky.
Oh, that's awesome.
Dick the Nick.
Dick the Nick.
Oh my
That's great.
God.
Okay, Andrew, you are behind. Where would you like to go?
This is not good. This is not good. 4.
Question number 4. Mitchell Robinson leads the league with 6.3 offensive rebounds per game. What is Robinson's single game career high in offensive rebounds? And you get to choose who answers first. So you can make Fred answer first, and you can go higher or lower, or you can answer first, and Fred will go higher or lower. However, if Fred gets it exactly correct, Andrew, he will get a bonus point. So be careful.
11.
11 is the number. Fred, would you like to go higher or lower than 11?
Is it just regular season or does it include playoffs?
It does include playoffs, yeah.
It does include playoffs. I think it's exactly 11.
Well, you have to choose higher or lower.
Oh.
So that's great that you think that, but
I'm gonna choose lower. I'm gonna choose lower.
Okay, well, unfortunately for you, that is incorrect because once upon a time, I think it was last March or something, he got 14 in a game.
Oh, I remember that. I was there.
Yeah,
I was there.
Why didn't I go higher? That was dumb. I was like, I think it was 11. He got 11 in a playoff game against the Cavs, and I was thinking that was the most ever. I forgot about the
14 is wild.
Wild. That was
Gosh.
an insane game. That was
14. Holy smokes.
That was a nice little save. Let me see what the score. It's 6-4. Now we have one question left. Andrew, you can't make it up, but for dramatic purposes, let's pretend you can. You can't.
Okay.
You've already lost. Okay, Fred, first dibs on this last question. Which of the following is not an official basketball reference nickname for one of the current New York Knicks? 5 names are Arch of Dimes, the Big Ragu, Blockness Monster, Big Balls, and Beyblade. Once again, that is Arch of Dimes, the Big Ragu, Blockness Monster, Big Balls, and Beyblade.
All right. The Blockness Monster is Mitchell Robinson.
Okay.
Arch of Dimes has got to be Ryan Arcidiacono. The Big Ragu. You know, I'm terrible with nicknames. I'm terrible with jersey numbers, but I know the Big Ragu is somebody. And then, that might be DiVincenzo. The Big Ragu is somebody. And what were the last two?
The last two, Big Balls and Beyblade.
Big Balls.
Oh my God. If someone's nickname on Basketball Reference is Big Balls, you know there's a 100% chance I'm walking into that locker room at their next game and doing a story on what that guy thinks of his nickname being Big Balls. So what was the last one?
Beyblade.
Beyblade?
Yeah, Beyblade.
B-A-Y space
like the toy?
B-L-A-D-E.
Yeah, like the toy. Beyblades. You familiar with Beyblades?
No, I've never heard of it in my life.
Oh yeah. Beyblades are
like
super
modern
fun.
day tops.
Yeah. Super
tops
fun.
You battle them.
Gotcha.
They're cool. You have an arena.
Modern tops.
I feel like big
Makes them
Big
seem
Balls
so
has
lame.
I know it
feel
does.
I feel like Big Balls is, you wouldn't make that up. Like that that sounds too ridiculous. You wouldn't make that up. You would be like subtle, like Beyblades. I'm
Hmm.
gonna say Beyblades.
All right, Fred. That is incorrect. Andrew, you have a chance to steal 1 point.
That's right. And not win. Well, Fred did a great job of whittling it all down for me to 2, and he guessed the wrong one. So I'm going to say big balls.
Okay, Andrew, that is correct for 1 point.
Yes.
Any guesses as to
Oh.
who actually does have that nickname? Somebody on the Knicks does have that nickname. They did receive it at some point in their career. It's just not an official Basketball Reference nickname. You have any ideas who that might be?
Big balls.
It was Emmanuel Quickly at the University
Oh.
of Kentucky. John Calipari nicknamed him Big Balls. Pretty great nickname. But at the end of the day, it was Fred Katz 6-5 over Andrew.
Yeah.
Andrew drops to 0-4 on the season.
That's bad.
Thanks for playing.
That's really bad. Go check out all of Fred's work at The Athletic. Go listen to the Tampering Podcast, which drops every Thursday. Fred, thanks so much for coming on.
I'm thrilled to come on. It's a great way to start my week, and can't wait to talk to you guys soon.
Okay, Andrew, that was Knicks week, which started on last Friday. It is now time to find out who will be the team for next week on this week's of Wheel of Fandom. So we've got how many teams we got left here? 27. 27 teams, a lot of options. Let's spin that wheel and see who you get. This week's Wheel of Fandom team will be Brooklyn Nets. Oh, right when Cam Thomas is out for 2 weeks.
I know. I was going to say,
we get the Brooklyn Nets.
We were cursed before the wheel even landed here. The Brooklyn Nets. Okay. Well,
at least we get to talk to Mike Smeltz.
I was going to say, Mike Smeltz better get himself ready for a Brooklyn Nets Slam and Jam pod. The Glue Guys and Slam and Jam.
So they're 4-4.
Anything good this week?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they've got tonight at the Celtics on ESPN. Then the Wizards, your favorite team, on Sunday.
Go.
Great.
There we go.
Orlando on Tuesday at home. Those are both home games. And then finishing up NBA TV on Thursday night against Miami at Miami.
Oh, okay. Those are some games that the Nets play in. Hey, if you will leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it on the show. This one comes from Train Fan 2020. Train Fan says, love it. Amazing. 5 stars. Thank you so much for that review. Again, leave us a review and we'll read it on the show. Hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Enjoy the basketball, and we will talk to you guys again next Friday.